So recently, Docker released the Docker Labs debug tools, which provides what is now known as the docker-debug command that allows you to hop into an image or a running container to get a shell open up inside of it. In this case, the fish shell, which is what I'm using on my host. You can install tools that you want, and then you can use those to inspect a container or an image. And it's really powerful because the container itself and the file system doesn't even have to actually have the shell available, let alone any of the tools that you install. Instead, you can bring those with you as you move between containers. So today, when I was looking at the extensions for this, because I had an issue with the docker-debug command with a particular Kubernetes kind cluster, I came in to look and see if I could install an older version, and I got sidetracked because I noticed that there's a Docker Labs K8 toolkit. Now, I know they've been describing docker-debug as something that could work with Kubernetes as well. And so when I saw this, I got kind of excited because I thought, hey, maybe they're actually releasing something here that is specific to Kubernetes that I might find beneficial when I want to hop into a process inside of a pod instead of a container. And so I went to take a look at this, and I want to make a quick little video how you can use this because this is pretty cool. All right, so first off, go ahead and install this on your machine using the Docker Desktop for Mac or Windows extensions. Install the Docker Labs K8 toolkit. And then once you've done that, you can open up the instructions here. You can find how to modify your path if you need to. In my case, I already have this directory in my path. And if I get out of docker-debug, I look in the .local and bin directory. You can see there's now a kubectl-shell command. So I can use that directly. Or if you want, you can actually use it as a subcommand of the kubectl command. And so what we can do with this, well, let's first do this. Let's go ahead and run a pod. And I think I have one here. If I just up arrow, yep. Okay, so I'm going to run a container based on a little web server, HashiCorp/HTTP echo. And I'll set the message that it echoes back to hello world. Nothing fancy here. If I get all my resources for the current namespace, you can see the pod is running. So now let's say I want to get inside and look around. So instead of using something like a kubectl exec, which I could try here, I could try to get into that pod, and then I could try to run some sort of shell like bash, but I'll get a failure. No matter what shell I try, it's going to fail because there is no shell installed inside of the HTTP echo image. It's just not available. So now what I want to do, I'll use the new kubectl-shell command. I need to pass the name of my pod, HTTP echo, and then that's all I have to do. In a moment, I'll have the shell opened up. It looks a lot like the docker-debug command. And if I want to take a look around, I can do that. You can see the HTTP echo command. You can look at the processes here. Look at all the processes. There you go. There's the HTTP echo process. And if I curl localhost, and I believe it's port 5678, there you go. There's a hello world message that I set. So I could go about looking all over the file system here. I could dump out, for example, etc/os-release. And as you can see here, the name here for the distro is called distro list. So there really is no operating system. So there's not going to be any sort of shell. In fact, if you look in the bin directory, there's nothing inside of there. If I look in /user/bin, nothing inside of there. And that's because this image is intended to focus on just running that little echo HTTP server. So now you can bring a whole set of tools with you inside of a debug container using the kubectl-shell command.